They say to be careful with who you interact with while being on the internet. Kamaso TV was one of my favorite sites to visit, and I would watch live streamers that did a lot outside of the world of gaming. It was my home away from the life and the constant mundane routine of working, eating, sleeping, and repeating. Some of the best moments of my life were getting to know people in the chat and bantering with the content creator as they did stupid stuff. There was one specific streamer I loved to watch anytime they were on, and it was Jen K TV. She would prank people in public, not maliciously, but in a goofing kind of manner, and people loved it. The people she would prank would either be surprised or go along with it, and it was fun content to provide to all of us normal people working 9 to 5. One thing about Jen K was that she was a very attractive person, so you can imagine some of the weird stuff people would say passing through the chat. With all the creepy comments that she would get, there was one particular user that legit creeped me out. The username Tedson was always in her chat, and they always had the creepiest comments. Jen K always played it off and pretended like she didn't notice how weird the user was being. That was one of the things about her. She knew a lot of her content could be crude at times, so she tried to let chat be themselves. Unfortunately, it caused her more harm than good. One day she was doing mall pranks. Tedson told her to go into the clothing store, and then made comments about her going into the changing room. They insisted that they were ready to see more of her, and that they needed to choke one out. Chat was disgusted with the comments and asked them to chill out and to leave her alone. It was getting to the point where they were being very disrespectful and no one was having any of it. So the mods timed them out for being disgusting, and it was a nice relief to not see their comments in the chat for once. The stream continued and the rest of the pranks were hilarious and a lot of fun. She left the mall and told the stream that she was leaving and that she would be back in a few days. Chat, as they always do, thanked her for being funny and made comments to one another to have a good night. So she ended the stream. 2 days go by and I'm getting food ready so I could hang out and watch Jen K's stream. I sit down with my dinner and the stream started. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with stream culture, but most streamers usually have a starting soon screen before they make their appearance. So I sat there joking with the rest of chat and saying hey to the regulars while we waited for her to come on over the screen. One thing I noticed was Tedson was nowhere to be found. It was a nicer environment knowing that they weren't in there creeping her and all of us out. Finally, Jen turns the cam on and says hey to all of us. We typed back to her and it looked like she was back at the mall doing more goofy stuff again. She pulled pranks on some bystanders and it was hilarious. Everyone was having a good time, till we saw Tedson pop up in the chat window. Tedson said, "Please Jenny, go into the changing room for me," with a smiley face. I thought to myself, damn, right when things felt fine, this pervert makes her way back into the channel. A mod instantly banned them from the stream and once again, peace and normalcy was back in order. She continued to prank and joke around with people, and then made her way out of the mall. As she got to her car, she was telling everyone that she was grateful for people watching and hanging out. As I'm sitting there watching and about to type something up, I look to the screen and see someone in a dark hoodie and a mask come up from behind the car. The person wasn't recognizable as they made their way behind Jen K. She didn't realize it at the time until chat started to warn her of the person's presence. Before she could turn around to look, the person threw a plastic bag over Jen's head and started to hit her in the face. The bag started to show red as Jen K tried to break free from this person's grasp, but the person wasn't letting go. They grabbed the selfie stick that she would use to stream from and angled it downwards as the masked person starts to choke Jen K. After some time, she stopped moving and was lifeless on the ground. The person started to kick her to make sure she wasn't responding. The masked person started to laugh into the camera and shut the stream off. The offline chat started to flood in with messages of calling the police, people thinking it was a stunt, and others thinking it was for more attention. I just sat there shocked in disbelief. I didn't know what to say. All I knew is I didn't feel good about the situation. The next day I woke up and got ready for work. I checked Jen K's channel and it was banned from the platform. Something was definitely up, and all I could hope for was that she was okay and it was just one of her pranks. I got home from work that day and checked my computer for any source or news on the situation. Finally, we got some word on it, and the act that was caught on stream was definitely not a joke. Jen K was murdered that day on stream. I read more into it, and the suspect was labeled as a jealous and obsessed fan of Jen K TV, who went by the username Tedson on Kamaso TV. I couldn't believe what I was reading. The creep that made nasty comments in the stream went to the mall to stream sniper and commit a horrific act on stream in front of thousands of people. The other wild thing was, Tedson was actually a female named Cindy Tedder. My mind was going crazy and I was blown away. Someone just living their life to make other people smile in some kind of way was gone in a matter of moments. I stopped going to Kamaso TV because I was pretty scarred from it. It's crazy what people will do for attention, and it was sad to see Jen K wiped from existence. Tedson mentioned choke one out, and I'm starting to think that message had a deeper meaning than just some dirty thought. It was a beautiful day outside, and I was excited, for it was the last day of working at my current job before moving on to the next one. I grabbed some breakfast and said bye to my cats before making my way out the door, where my work friends were there to meet up with me. The workplace wasn't too far away, so we normally walked. It was nice to be able to hang out with all of them before the grueling hours of being on the job. One thing I noticed is that my friend Damien was nowhere to be found. He was usually a part of our morning routine of walking, so it was odd to not see him there. I asked my friends where Damien was, and they all said he was going to be late because he was getting over a stomach bug from the day before. I shrugged it off, and we all started to make our way. We went through our day and had lunch together, yet Damien was still nowhere to be found. It really sucked that he was missing my last day, and I wouldn't see him every day anymore. We finished up lunch and went back to our cubicles. The day continued on, and I was slacking off, because I knew that nothing really mattered, other than leaving my days in that building behind me. My branch manager, Miss Silverstein, was really happy for me in finding something else that better suited my creative outlet and moving on to the next chapter of my life. Miss Silverstein was one of my favorite people. She was really kind, thoughtful, and it also helped that she was easy on the eyes. She smiled at me as I started a failed attempt at flirting with her, and then we started to hear loud bangs down the hallway. Everyone continued working and didn't think anything of it, because construction workers were remodeling part of the building, until we heard screaming trailing very closely behind it. The phone rang and Miss Silverstein ran over to pick it up. Her confused grin changed drastically as she frantically whispered "okay" and hung up the phone. She went over to close and lock the door. After she did so, she told everyone to stay quiet and remain calm, because they believed the loud noises were gunshots. People started to panic, and everyone at this point went from being busy with their work to being terrified, nervous messes. Everything around me started to blur, and I started to have a panic attack, but continued to breathe so I didn't make any noise. The loud bangs continue over and over again, with people yelling and crying for help, to then go silent after each noise. A man could be heard yelling and taunting in a very sinister way, with more loud bangs following. The footsteps start to make their way closer and closer to our office door, and people had hands over their mouths, trying to remain as quiet as possible. Some of my coworkers were whispering prayers while the others were trying to stay strong for them. I look to the door and see a silhouette of a person behind the pane of glass, and he starts to tap it in a very creepy manner. Eventually he punches through the glass and unlocks the door to let himself in. Miss Silverstein told him to please stop what he was doing and to not harm anyone in the office. The man, who was dressed in dark clothes and a skull mask, laughed as he aimed at her and pulled the trigger. The blast sent Miss Silverstein off her feet and onto the ground. She showed no signs as her body lay there lifeless on the ground. The masked man laughs and turns to look at the rest of all of us and starts to open up on everyone in sight. People start to scream as they hit the deck under their desks, with some of them being too slow to react and taking shots. I'm sitting on the ground in the corner of my cubicle, doing my best not to be visible or lose it. The shots continue as the man walked over to every person to make sure that they weren't getting up. His muffled laugh picked up as he maniacally reloaded his gun. He walks over to my cubicle where I was hiding and spots me. I stare straight into his rubber face as he points between my eyes. I think to myself, this is it. This is where my short life ends. I won't be able to move on to my dream job, see my cats, and be with my friends again. As I watch my life flash quickly, the man lowers the gun and kicks me in the side, knocking me to the ground. He stands over me as he lifts his mask up. My stomach instantly felt sick, and my eyes grew big, as I look up to see Damien standing over me with his cold dead stare. I asked him why he was doing this. He takes some time to respond and says, "All of this This life, these people, mean absolutely nothing to me. They are just cattle to the slaughter, and if they're going to be slaughtered, I want to be the butcher. He aims his gun at me, and I lift my hand up to say please stop. I wake up. My body is completely soaked in cold sweat as I look over to my clock to see that it's 3:33 a.m. Relieved but sick to my stomach, I lay back down and stare at the dark ceiling while trying to catch my breath. I could not believe that just happened. It felt so real, like I was literally about to have my life end along with a ton of other people, by the likes of one of my work friends. Going back to sleep was near impossible, and I thought about the nightmare all night. The sun rose and I walked downstairs to get some water before getting ready for work. I looked into the mirror and could tell I was pale, as if I had seen a ghost. I get into the shower and get ready for work. My cats were at the bathroom door waiting for attention, as they usually do. I picked them both up and gave them hugs, and was grateful I was able to hold and see them again. My friend showed up to my door, and with them was Damien. I had a hard time looking at him in the eyes, thinking back to that cold dead stare he gave me in the dream the night prior. I ended up enjoying my last day of working that stressful and unfulfilling job, and we started to walk back home. I asked Damien if he would ever hurt anyone. He smiled and asked me why I would ask such a question. I nervously laughed and said, "Never mind, man. I just had a weird dream last night and wanted to make sure you were good." He said, "Absolutely. Even better knowing that you're done with that place and bettering your life. I'm gonna miss you though, buddy. You're a good friend." I smiled back at him and said, "Yeah, man, most definitely." I never told Damien the details of that dream and what it was about. Even though it was a nightmare, I still let everyone know to be careful and never take life for granted. Thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your day to check this video out. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to know when new videos release in the near future. I hope you're all well and staying safe. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.